Thank, even though she couldn't be here today, Regina Winters, who is one of the most wonderful students I've ever been, have ever had the privilege to work with at the Yale School of Architecture, but has gone on to go far beyond that as a city official at LCI and now as a local architect and practitioner. She is, you know, I can only say this because she's not here and can't get too embarrassed, but she is an example, better than any I could have imagined, of the kind this area is to develop and enhance what is already an incredibly important education corridor that is also the main street of the neighborhood. And this, I don't know of many neighborhoods where the neighborhood main street, which is Edgewood Avenue in this case, is also this amazing learning corridor that includes forward-looking educational institutions at so many different levels. Let's just go from west to east. There's the Truth School, which is currently being renovated as a new middle school, which will have a completely renovated historic building, which I look forward to seeing. For those of you who don't remember, there are an incredible sequence of WPA murals from the 1930s in the Truth School about the history of New Haven. So it's an amazing building at a number of different levels, and it will be better going forward. Then, of course, there is the Montessori on Edgewood, which was mentioned earlier, that also includes not only the daycare center, the toddler center, but the offices of the Dwight Development Corporation, that Linda and some of the rest of us have given so much blood to over the last several years, but it's now a wonderful beacon to the neighborhood. Then moving east, of course, we get to the Dwight campus, where good things have happened and will continue to happen as it develops. We look forward, I'll say a little bit more about that, to it being even more of an asset to the neighborhood. And then, lest we forget, at the eastern end of the corridor is Yale University, and Yale has just recently taken a big step into the neighborhood beyond what they've done in the past, where students, graduate students and undergraduates have been residents of the neighborhood, but now the new sculpture building has a front door on Edgewood Avenue that includes what will be a beautiful little art gallery that is, I think, as you see it develop at a very appropriate neighborhood scale. And then just around the corner, although some of us have our offices there temporarily this year, but eventually there will be retail all along House Street under the parking garage, which is one of the things that we really looked for in the original neighborhood plan 12 years ago, and is now really taking a giant step forward. So most of the time it doesn't hurt to have a world-class educational institution at one end of the street, but of course we're very proud of the other institutions that have been built along that street as well. Now, as for the Dwight School, we've learned that it is coming up on the school construction cycle, and that there will be an opportunity, an extraordinary opportunity, for us to collaborate in the development of a state-of-the-art elementary and community campus around the Dwight School. Something that, again, we looked for at the first workshop, and this building was the first step in that. So it's going to be very interesting going ahead to see how with the rebuilding, or replacement really, of the older school building, linked to this building, linked to, we hope, some reactivated open spaces around the school. And we have the opportunity, and we've started on that, to look at how traffic and parking can be reconfigured, open space to work better with the neighborhood. We've got right here 3 sketches for different ways of starting to configure the building and the traffic and the parking on the site. There are probably about 20 other ways that we'll look at, and hopefully some of those will find their way into the plan as guidance for all of us going forward. And again, we want to thank Sue Weissenberg for the collaborative spirit that she brought to this event, really open about soliciting ideas and considering those. And of course, there will be a school-based committee that I'm sure some of you will serve on going forward, that will be involved in the planning of the campus, in architect selection, in all of those things. So it's a huge opportunity, but it fits right into the things that you all have been thinking about already. And of course, we also want, in relationship to that, to develop really constructive programs for neighborhood youth at all ages, not just elementary and preschool, but in collaboration with the schools, with Troop and with Dwight, programs for older children, and many of you have mentioned the possibility of a real youth center as part of this extended educational corridor and campus, which would serve the needs of older youth in a productive way as part of that larger vision, and then maybe even as part of that a neighborhood senior center that would supplement the senior center in West River and provide activities in relationship again to this learning corridor for older learners as well. We need to remember that people in the neighborhood don't stop when they finish school, when they finish formal school, that we all keep learning, and that everything from job training to productive senior activities is part of that education corridor. Now, the education corridor will be nothing without safety. And in the area of traffic and safety, which Andre and others worked on yesterday, clearly we need to make the Edgewood corridor, and indeed all the streets of the neighborhood, safe, pedestrian-friendly, accessible, and of course beautiful streets. We talk about sustainability, and we'll talk a little bit more about it in specific, but we found as designers that one of the things that makes a neighborhood and makes a building sustainable is that people love it. And if they love it, they will take care of it, and therefore it will be sustainable. If they don't like it, either because it's not attractive, not welcoming, not part of their vision of things, then nothing that we do with the heating systems or air conditioning systems or materials will make it sustainable, because people won't take care of it. They won't take ownership of it. So having buildings that we're proud of, facilities that we're proud of, streets that we're proud of is a big part of it. The core seems to us, as we've discussed this, to be balancing the often conflicting demands of streets that are through routes for the city and the region, but are also, and importantly, neighborhood streets. So when you look at Chapel Street, or when you look at Whaley Avenue, if you're a traffic planner, or if you're a resident of the larger region, you see a way to get from one place to another. But we in Dwight look at those streets, and we see neighborhood streets, even with Whaley. We see local businesses, we see local children, we see people treating those streets not just as highways, but as neighborhood streets. So in planning for traffic and safety, we understand that the challenge is to balance those demands so that neither of them creates insurmountable problems for the other. That we're not going to stop the traffic on Whaley. People are going to use it. We want them to use it. It's good for business that they use it. But they need to use it in a way that is supportive of neighborhood activity at the same time. And that means a variety of things. One of the things that it means is we need to incorporate a network of very attractive, safe pedestrian and bicycle routes through the neighborhood. There are more and more, one of the big changes since we were here 12 years ago is the level of bicycle traffic in this neighborhood. There are a lot more people riding their bikes in and through the neighborhood. Some people even rode their bikes through that door last night. So the young people in the neighborhood see everything as a potential bicycle route. And we need to allow for the safety and accessibility of that level of activity, but also for people commuting back and forth to downtown on bicycles. That needs to feel, that's a new part of our cities that we need to work with as we go ahead. By the way, it's not insignificant that the bike paths that we make in our neighborhoods will connect to an ever-growing regional network of bike trails Some of us were privileged last year to hear the extraordinary saga of a couple that bike what will be, hopefully in another 10 years, the East Coast Greenway from the Florida Keys all the way to the border of Maine and Canada. And a lot of that, by the way, is already in place, and it will come right through New Haven and connect to the Farming Canal Corridor and to other bicycle routes. So there's a big picture as well as a local picture. Now, we also need, and Andre looked at some of this, and we need to look at more of it going ahead. Mike Piscatelli is very eager to hear our suggestions about this. State-of-the-art traffic calming devices. What does that mean? It means things that we do to our streets and the buildings around them to send a message to cars to slow down and to watch out for pedestrians and other people on the streets. To remind them that there is this neighborhood that they're driving through and they can't just step on the gas and go straight through it. There are all kinds of things now that are being tried out in New Haven and other communities that are worth looking at for Edgewood and for other streets in the neighborhood, like expanding sidewalks and landscaping areas so that they narrow vehicular right-of-ways, causing the cars to slow down. I've been in neighborhoods in Europe, for example, where every street in busy urban neighborhoods in very dense cities is narrowed to one lane at the end, so that the cars have to slow down. That also gives you a mini neighborhood park at the end of every street because you expand the landscaping area and the planning. There are all kinds of green and sustainable opportunities that come along with that as well. Speed bumps, of course, which are going in some New Haven streets. Traffic tables, that's a raised or depressed paving area, often in an intersection that turns the intersection into a little plaza where cars have to slow down. New kinds of street paving. Edgewood, really, if it's going to be an educational corridor, should be as much about public space as it should be about traffic, especially in front of the schools. In front of Dwight, in front of the troop school, there should be treatments of sidewalks and paving that really send a message to the cars that you're on school grounds, and you've got to really pay attention to what's going on in those particular places. So improving safety, enhancing the pedestrian experience, and by the way, the quality of life in general, and also, not coincidentally, improving the business environment. Traffic calming is good for business. It slows cars down, it gives people a chance to park, it gives people a chance to look at what's going on, it gives people a chance to get out of their cars and become shoppers and not just pedestrians in the neighborhood. Now, I mentioned environmental opportunities. One of the strategic things that we've learned is that almost everything you do can be an opportunity to improve sustainability in a neighborhood, in a building, in a community. Everything you build, everything you do with sidewalks, parking lots, everything now creates opportunities if we're positioned to take advantage of them to do a better job of managing natural resources, but also to enhancing the quality of life by letting you slow cars down, when you slow trucks down, when you encourage people to be on foot or on bicycles. That's a win-win situation. It decreases noise, it decreases pollution. It makes the kind of community where people are healthier because they're walking or riding bicycles rather than depending on their cars for getting everywhere. It makes places more accessible, all of those things. So use improvements in every other area to build a greener, more sustainable neighborhood by encouraging more walking, by biking, by using streetscape improvements and landscaping to solve problems of things like water management. I'm going to ask Jim to say a few more words about that in a minute, to make a healthier neighborhood. We've also begun to get the idea that a lot of these gains can be made at a very, very local level by groups of homeowners or business people or people living on the same block just getting together and saying, what can we do to make our block greener, to reduce paving areas, to improve landscaping overall, to manage water better, to manage energy better. What gains are there to be made at that local area? To turn parking lots into more attractive, better managed public spaces, not just expanses of asphalt, for example, and to ultimately to expand and enhance that whole network of neighborhood open spaces, whether it's Rainbow Park at a small scale or your front yard, connecting to a sidewalk, connecting to a trail, connecting to a park. As you move up in scale, those kinds of enhancements start with the schoolyard, start with the local park, and build up to larger community resources. Jim and Aaron were working in more detail on this, and I'm going to give them the opportunity to add a word or two before I wrap it up.
Inherent green spaces, it's a little hard to read that, but within blocks. It turns out that in Dwight neighborhood there are a couple examples where there's green areas within the block. Most people probably identify them as
that are at the disposal of the neighborhood, so that we can look at some of these things in more detail as we go ahead. This is not pie in the sky, but the fact is that this is a neighborhood that is well situated to get out in front on some of these important issues. And I think if you do, it starts to contribute to the reputation and identity of Dwight as a progressive neighborhood, as a neighborhood that pays attention to basic human needs, but also sees how they relate to a larger set of issues. And it's also very practical stuff. We all, especially for business people, we all know, and homeowners, we all know that the bills are not going down, they're going up, and that we need to explore these from the point of view of economic sustainability as well as environmental sustainability. Now, I mentioned neighborhood identity. This is an important thing. I mean, Dwight has a sense of itself like very few neighborhoods that I know of. And that has resulted in incredible achievements. But I think it's getting to a point now where a lot of us feel that we can be a little bit more public about that sense of identity. That it can be displayed in a clearer way through the beauty of streets, through programs of streetscape improvement, landscaping, and public art that link to some of these other areas. This is in some ways a no-brainer. Why? Because Dwight is one of the most historic neighborhoods in New Haven. And we need to show that to ourselves and show it to other people. The architecture of this neighborhood is spectacular. Those of us who live with it every day sometimes forget about it, but it is an incredible resource. And going ahead, it's going to be an economic resource, but it's also going to be a resource for neighborhood pride and neighborhood identity as people take care of it. So we want to find ways to highlight this so that as we're improving this education corridor that is Edgewood, we're going to make it greener, we're going to make it more beautiful. We're also going to use it as an occasion to show off the neighborhood to people. To use signage, to use public art, to use everything at our disposal to really put our best foot forward. Now, Dean Sakamoto, who is another colleague and a local architect who many of you know, who worked with the Chapel West Special Services District on their plan, was here yesterday working with Vanessa and others on ideas about neighborhood identity and character. And there are a lot of interesting opportunities. Some of them have been around before, we just need to pick them up again and see what we can do, like the daycare corner site. We haven't yet secured funding for that, but I think there's some opportunities to look at things like that going ahead, things that will really help doing. Another idea that surfaced in our conversations with the DCMT steering committee that I think is absolutely doable and important is a neighborhood website. Because so many of these things that we're talking about, strategies for saving energy, information about events that are going on, opportunities, jobs, you name it, are becoming more and more accessible through the internet. And a lot of neighborhoods around the country are building websites that link to calendars, that link to things that are going on in the city, that have a permanent part of that website that describes the history and attractions of the neighborhood, that lets local businesses describe what they offer. And so one of the initiatives that we are, I think, very excited about getting underway right away is building such a website, but then of course there's a big job maintaining it as well. So it's a kind of participatory activity that's well suited to the way that Dwight operates, and I think people will take it seriously and pitch in and do those things, and it'll go a long way to assist you with a lot of other efforts. I look forward, for example, to having a kind of neighborhood guide on a website, maybe in published form as well, but certainly on the website, so that when people want to see what's going on, when people want to do a walking tour of the neighborhood, which is well worth the effort, that they can see what there is to see and not miss anything. Now, the area that I've saved for last is in some ways always the most challenging and the most important, because without it we can't do anything else, and that's economic development. One of the things that is clear we need to do is to continue to build on the past programs and projects that the GDC and the city and others have initiated to ensure that all neighborhood residents have access to education, to training, and to decent, well-paying jobs. And of course, you know that access means a lot of things, from being able to get where they're going, to get to your jobs, but also to be able to do those jobs when they get there. And again, without this, of course, really nothing else is possible. So this is at the core of a lot of what we think about. We heard yesterday a very eloquent plea that the neighborhood work with local and state partners to guarantee community benefits for many development projects that we see in the neighborhood and in the community going forward, so that Dwight residents have real access to those jobs, both in the short run, in terms of construction jobs for particular projects, but in the long run as well for jobs that are created through those development projects. This is of crucial importance and something that all neighborhoods are, of course, thinking about. We want to expand and enhance the economic anchors that the neighborhood has already developed through their efforts and through their collaborations. That means, of course, Dwight Plaza, and Ed Mitchell, a colleague of mine, and others have been yesterday looking at strategies for getting to that next phase with Dwight Plaza as it expands, where again we have to balance the needs of the existing businesses for parking and access with the opportunities that exist for linking to Elm Street, which is really a very attractive residential corridor that sometimes suffers from the fact that the Whaley Avenue businesses back up to that, but as designers we think there are ways to negotiate that through managing and landscaping, shared parking, all of those things, and not just Dwight Plaza but the whole Whaley corridor, where people like Sheila Masterson and others have really been working very hard, where there's some success stories that are developing, but there are still some opportunities, vacant sites that are underdeveloped that we want to see developed in ways that will enhance the neighborhood going forward. We've worked with Sheila and others over the years on projects like the study for the 352 Whaley site, which is still vacant, and perhaps will be for some time, but when it finally comes to fruition, we want it to be the kind of development, you know, not just another drive-through, whatever, but the kind of mixed-use development that really supports Whaley as a major regional corridor, that does justice to the scale of that street that could become a really beautiful urban boulevard, I think, in many ways. It's not just Dwight, because of course economic development is not only pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps. Dwight residents will expect to be linked to opportunities all throughout the region. And to do that, Dwight needs to continue to be partners with other people throughout the region, city, other neighborhoods like West River, and of course developments in the center of the city, Broadway, development along Chapel Street, in the Ninth Square, in the Gateway District. All of those things are opportunities for Dwight as well if we enter a collaborative mode and if we link our projects with projects in the rest of the city. For example, as has been pointed out, we need to be partners with West River and with the whole city in making sure that the Route 34 corridor development meet the needs of the neighborhoods. That they provide opportunities, that they don't overburden the infrastructure, that traffic and parking and pollution is managed in a way with what is a huge scale of development opportunity that really enhances the neighborhood. And as somebody said very explicitly yesterday, relinks neighborhoods that have been cut off from each other for a long time. I think if there's anything that I look forward to as that development goes forward, it's the opportunity to take communities around Legion Avenue that were once part of a shared. Legion Avenue was like Whaley. It was a corridor that linked the various communities and neighborhoods, and then it became this highway site that cut everybody off from each other. And as you all probably know, former residents of Legion Avenue still have reunions where they get together and are nostalgic about the old days when well, it could be that kind of corridor once again, but we need to work with our neighbors to make sure that those kinds of things happen, and we're happy to work on some of the design aspects of that as we go ahead. So there are some big opportunities out there. There's some big things that we've already done, like Dwight Plaza, but there's some big economic development opportunities going ahead, and those, of course, will provide the other opportunity, individual opportunities that make this a better neighborhood for kids and for residents as well. All of these things, you know, are not separate tables or separate categories. They all link together. I think what's really been exciting for us over the years about working with Dwight is that people here can not only keep their eye on the ball and get individual projects done, but they do those projects in ways that open up possibilities for other things and other people. It's not a kind of thing where Dwight residents say, this is my project, I don't want anything else happening around it. Every project that you all have done, you know, the classic example is this building and the GDDC Montessori Albus Booker building. I mean, nobody in planning and zoning had ever heard of a building that combined daycare and local community development corporation offices and adult education classrooms and all the things that we stuffed into that building, right? So we have to get a zoning variance. You know, it wasn't a normal project. But those are the kinds of projects that we keep looking for, the ones that allow us to do a lot of the things that we're excited about. So with that, I'm going to heed Jim's advice and call for comments and discussion and questions, and we're here. Yes, sir. When we were here 12 years ago, the Kensington Square project was just getting organized, and I think the first years of that, I think it's safe to say, people correct me if I'm wrong, were better managed and better part of the neighborhood than they've become in recent years. And we've heard a lot of concern that the Kensington Square project, as it's currently operating, is not a particularly good asset to the neighborhood and needs to be attended to going forward. Is that fair? Yeah, well, yeah, I'm a mild speaker. The second thing is that there are some opportunities, one of which is right across the street from us, which is that the HUD housing on Day Street, what's that? Antillian Manor. HUD is in the process of getting rid of those properties so that they are not in the real estate business anymore. So very shortly there may well be an opportunity to have more local control of that project and either renovate or rebuild in a way that, especially as we go forward with this educational campus here at the Dwight School, is a better part of that and a better part of the neighborhood. And so we didn't do any planning in that area, but clearly the plan document needs to call out some of these concerns and some of these opportunities as we go forward. Are there others that people want to mention? Yeah.
Another question.